What is the role of you as an educator and a policymaker when it comes to bullying in school? And what do you think more could be done, or what has been done in the past?
Well, I think actually a lot is being done, and despite the fact that people think it's not being done, actually.
Yeah.
When you watch the 6:30 programs on television, it's always what are the schools doing about childhood obesity? What are the schools doing about bullying? What are the schools doing about, kids wiping their bums? I mean, that'll be the next thing, to be honest, because, look, seriously, I don't mean to be rude. Well, I do, actually. But parents and communities these days tend to be abdicating responsibility to schools, a little bit too much to my liking. And then at the same time we're told that the numeracy and literacy results aren't as good as they should be. And I might suggest to people that's probably because we're dealing with so many of the other society's problems and not focusing on some of the things that perhaps we should be focusing on. But having said that, bullying is a massive problem in schools. I could not agree with you more, Catherine, than bullying starts at home. It's just unfortunate that it plays out at school, because that's the first place that kids go where they decide to empower themselves by demeaning others. And possibly that's what's happened at home. Perhaps their parents have demeaned them, perhaps they themselves have been bullied. Perhaps they themselves have been abused. And when I look at the kids at school that I deal with that are bullies, they nearly 99% of times fall into that category. And that's really the sad thing, is that you can't just look at a bully and say you're a rotten person. There's always a story behind it. And I know that as a school teacher, and at any school that I've ever taught at, we do a lot to try and empower kids to stand up to bullies, to say no. And that's a great theory, but in practice, anyone that's been bullied in the workplace, and I know many people have, will know that it's not always that easy to stand up to a bully, because if you're an onlooker and you stand up to a bully, the chances are you're going to be the next person to be targeted. And that's what happens in schools. So kids are quite frightened to stand up to bullies, even if they're onlookers. So it is actually a very difficult situation to tackle, but we are really dead set. We really are trying to do that as much as we can, but we are up against it.
What strategies do you give to children or to parents in order to kind of start moving, people who might be, in those positions? What are the strategies that get put in place to kind of start moving that in a positive direction?
I think it's always positive self-esteem, but then again I come back to that same thing. That's not something that you can fix with... it's not like the Hollywood, it's not like the movies where you have a teacher that someone goes to and they say, but you've just got to understand, you've got to stand up to these people, and they have a light bulb moment and suddenly they... it's a long process if you have a child who's a bully because they've been bullied or because they've been abused, to try and teach them a whole new set of ways to feel good about themselves. You do not demean others and put other people down because it makes you look good against those people, whether it's homophobia and the whole gay thing or a racist comment. They'll just pick anything. They'll pick anything and they will put other people down because it makes them feel better. They elevate themselves by putting others down. So it's not an easy thing. I think empowering kids in high schools and primary schools means a great deal of education from the very young years, and it's not something that can be done overnight. And I know that schools do it. They do it in personal development. You do it every time you get a bullying incident, and I had one yesterday. What happened, Sean?
What happened?
Well, what happened
Give it
was
to
that
us.
One of the girls who is falls into that category that I mentioned is a 13-year-old girl that's had a horrible 13 years, and not a 13 years that I think anyone should have. Unfortunately, she falls into the category of a typical bully. She was calling some of the other girls, saying that they had a big bum because she was trying to impress some boys, I think. If someone told one of us we'd have a big bum, we'd tell them to fuck off. But, for kids with self-esteem issues and high school kids, that's horrible. So anyway, we had some tears. The way to handle it was to confront it, to get the story from both sides of the kids, to then have a mediation meeting to get one of the kids to dob the other one in, unfortunately. That's what it comes down to. And then to take action against it, which was to have a meeting with the parents. Now, that takes a lot of time, and you put that time in willingly because it's important, but it is a process. And when you have 3 or 4 of those kind of things a day, you can imagine that it gets pretty draining having to deal with things like you've got a big bum. But, you know, that when that happened, if that happened once, you wouldn't give a rat's. But if it happens every day, and if it happens on social media when you get home, and if it happens consistently over and over and over again, as it tends to do these days, then a kid gets worn down, and it is very hard for them to stand up to a bully, and that's when they do take other actions. And social media, I think, for schools is the big frontier because, you know, in my day, and I'm a bit old now, you went home and you had a break from it. If someone wanted to ring you up and tell you a fucking excuse me.
Oh, oops. Gee, you're actually allowed to say that here, Feisty. It's all right.
Fucking asshole or something like that, or a bitch or something.
We're not on radio. You can say cunt. Well, you can say it all day long if you want.
But you know, in my day, you'd have to ring my landline, and my mother probably answered. So you're not going to do it. But today, you're going to get a text, or you're going to get a Facebook, or you're going to get some sort of other social media form of abuse that's going to not just be from one person, but it's going to be through a network, and that is unrelenting.
It doesn't really stop, does it, Catherine?
No, and I'd like to comment on that. A lot of the teachers at school, not you, but a lot of other teachers, they have difficulty turning a computer on, let alone typing in the address to Facebook and creating an account. So
or maybe not somebody over here.
No.
That's all right.
Nobody in this room. But I know from personal experience that the teachers get confused by this, and they don't quite know what it is, and they say book space or my book or face space, and so, you know, it's educating teachers. I was at the Proud Schools conference with teachers today. They all want to help their kids, but the thing is that a lot of them have such minimal understanding of technology that they don't understand how they can help their kids, because they don't understand how to stop it, because you have to understand it before you can do that.
Can I say something in our defence? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was not meaning all teachers.
No, I know that, but I know very few teachers that aren't aware of it, to be perfectly honest.
Oh no, they're aware of it. Some of them don't know how to stop it.
Well, how can you stop it when it's in the ether? You know, it is actually quite difficult, because I don't befriend school kids on my Facebook account. In fact, it's a bit tricky, so they can't find me, and I don't want them to. So we don't see it. We're not. We don't have crystal balls. We can't. We rely, unfortunately, on other kids or parents telling us about it. And if people don't tell us about it, we simply don't know.
Jen, you want to jump in?
Just completely honest. Most of this stuff happens outside of school.
Thank you.
It doesn't happen in school time.
Exactly.
So it really doesn't have anything to do with the teachers.
It's not the teacher's problem.
No.
It's the parents' problem.
Hello.
Yeah. And I am, for one, sick and bloody tired of everyone going, teachers fix it, teachers fix it, teachers fix it, teachers fix it. No. Parents need to start taking some responsibility for what happens in their houses on their computer screens. Facebook, texting, phones, all of that are banned during school time.
Yeah, and the other thing is with Facebook and stuff like that, you know, really, teachers don't. We really don't see that stuff. We really do rely on other people telling us about it. Yeah. And it's true that this whole thing about teachers should be able to stop it. We're not superhuman. We're just not, sorry.
Yeah, but you should be. You should be. You need to teach the children to read, to write, to socially interact.
I'd love to be able
just
to teach
do
them
it all.
To read and write and not have to do it. I'll be teaching them to drive soon.